Boston's finalists running for mayor have staked out positions on the arts in response to questionnaires from the advocacy group MASSCreative. To tell us about the answers and the importance of a creative agenda is the group's executive director, Matt Wilson. Thank you very much for being with us again, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, talk about the bigger picture. This is not just Boston, right?
Yeah, our organization is working with arts and creative leaders in 12 cities across Massachusetts with the goal of injecting the discussion of arts and culture into city council and mayoral races. We really believe that arts and creative expressions are a key to the vibrancy of a community, their economic well-being, and the effectiveness of their education system. So from Boston to Springfield to Worcester to Lowell, the discussion about arts and culture is part of the mayoral dialogues in those cities.
And it was here 4 years ago. You have a sense of how things have changed since at least that time?
Yeah, I mean, 4 years ago, we had an idea with the leaders of the Boston arts community with the big mayoral race 4 years ago. Let's make arts and culture a part of that discussion. So we met with, I think there was 12 mayoral candidates running for mayor back in 2013. They all did questionnaires. We met with them individually, and we had a forum. Actually, it ended up being the largest forum of that mayoral campaign, where we filled the Paramount Theater and really showed the candidates that arts and culture is an issue that people care about. And the result was Mayor Walsh, who declared that he was going to make lead an arts renaissance here in Boston. And he's delivered on many of his promises that he made during that 2013 election. And you can see an upturn in the arts and cultural community here, more vibrancy, more excitement, more things happening here in the city.
I remember from the early part of the mayor's term, there was a lot of anxiety about losses in performance space. You know, what's going to happen with the Huntington Theater? There's this the Colonial Theater, I think. Yeah, and I guess there has been some good news in both of those fronts.
Yeah, there's good news. The Colonial has been saved by Emerson College. The Huntington, with the help of the mayor, is totally refurbishing itself. And there's a promise to build a couple new theaters down in the new Seaport district. So while there's a huge need for space, and this will start to address some of it, but one of the problems is we have so many theaters here in Mass Theater groups and so many artists. We really need the space, and so it's a great start. And the arts and cultural community is still looking for places where they can rehearse, create, and perform their work.
In many communities, we hear about the arts as an economic or even human development agent. And you look at Hyde Square with the Latin Quarter. At Roxbury, they're talking about a cultural district. Why is that so important for the people, the education, the economy?
Yeah, it's the we're here in Boston, where we have a creative economy that is driven by innovation and technology. Hundreds of $millions a year are being generated by economic activity through the arts, not only for going to shows, but when you go, you spend an extra $30 on food and transportation. And so it is an economic driver. And it is a thing that creates viability and vibrancy in your neighborhoods. It keeps culture. You see it in Hyde Square, where they're developing the Latin Quarter, and they're using arts and culture to define their neighborhood and make it a livable place. You see it in Chinatown, where huge high-rises are threatening to take over the culture of that neighborhood, but it's the Chinese Historical Society or the Chinatown Neighborhood Association that is working to keep the Chinese culture there. And it's so important to keep Boston and keep the cultures that has made it a vibrant community for hundreds of years.
This has been on news, and we're talking with Matt Wilson from MASSCreative. Matt, what about the responses from the challenger for mayor, Tito Jackson?
Yeah, we had a great sit-down meeting with a number of arts leaders with Councilor Jackson to talk about what his vision is. And he's the head of the Education Committee on the City Council, and is very devoted to increasing access and participation in arts education here in the Boston Public Schools. And he has ideas on how to invest more in the arts community. He's talking about increasing the arts budget. He's talking about potentially putting out a hotel tax, similar to what they did in New Bedford, which is dedicated to the Boston arts community. And so Councilor Jackson does have some ideas on how to move ahead on arts education and how to invest in the broader arts and cultural community.
What about some of the things that have been going on earlier this year? This is not strictly at the city level now, but up at the State House, you had a budget cut from the governor and you had to sort of rally against that. How did that work out for you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues is that we're really looking at cities as it's a time for them to step up, because if you look at the federal government, our president proposed to zero out the NEA and federal funding to the arts. Now, Congress saved that, but still there's going to be a cut. And here in the state, there's been level funding for the arts for the past 2 years. We're still, funded about half of where we were 20 years ago. So looking for resources from the federal and state government, we're not that optimistic. Yet it's the cities where we're seeing all this imaginative and innovative work being done, whether it's in Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, Worcester, that cities are now investing and realizing that arts and culture creates vibrancy and economic health and really boosts up their education system. So we think over the next 3 or 4 years that we'll see an uptick in investment by cities in arts and culture and creative expression.
Well, I know if you fill the venues, that trickles around into who goes to the restaurants and the clubs afterwards. But what about if you're talking about let's bring this or that company to the city and you're competing with all these other cities around the country? How important are the arts in that?
Yeah, I mean, GE's coming to town, and from what many people say, it's yes, there was tax breaks that lured him, but really it was the quality of life and the innovation feeling, and how can they attract a good labor pool here to Boston. And I think that's what, for a lot of companies, that's what they're looking for. With Amazon, I think that will be one of their big things of considering a city. Is this a place where you can attract good workers that want to stay and feel, are in an exciting community?
Finally, we should say that if people want to look at some more details on what's going on with MASSCreative, you've got the website, right?
Yeah, so our website is masscreative.org, and you can go to the Create the Vote tab, and we'll have posted the answers to the questionnaires by Mayor Walsh and City Councilor Jackson, and a number of the City Council candidates too. It's a great opportunity before you go in and vote next Tuesday to look at where the candidates stand on arts and culture, and we hope that you include that in your calculus and when you vote next Tuesday.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Great, thanks, Chris.
From MASSCreative, Matt Wilson. Up ahead, sports with Pat Flaherty.